And battles are never won alone. They are won together. Because together is stronger. Tied tight, united we stand. In honor of one child's wish. And inspired by the fire in his fight. Join the kingdom.
Hey everyone, my name is Ryland and welcome to the third episode of the KingJay podcast. Now in today's episode, we're going to be leaving right where we left off and moving right into the upcoming summer months. So getting into it, we previously left off with around the Garth Brooks story and him going into a partial coma, however you want to say it. And so moving forward from there, moving into the spring, not a whole lot of new action really happened. Just kind of the same old, still adapting, still learning to everything new coming in, still, typical treatments. And then he kept going through his normal life as normal as you can make it. He, kept going through school and got into June and he was able to graduate with his friends, which was something that's just incredible that when you look back on it, having to, getting diagnosed with beginning of grade 11 and having to go through grade 11 courses and grade 12 courses while battling cancer, going through treatment, still being able to graduate. So looking back on it, it's really incredible being able for someone in that position to be able to go through that. And, I remember being at his grad and just remembering how taken back I was in a way and proud and giving me kind of a sense of motivation to, seeing him go through all that and still being able to graduate. It just kind of makes you realize how your struggles are nothing and just kind of reminds you even up till today just to keep pushing through whatever you think is hard. It's not hard. And, that day was kind of, it kind of just let you forget about everything that was happening. He was feeling good that day, which was really awesome to see, for his point of view, not having to struggle as much on such an important day for him, being able to graduate high school. It's something that I still look back on to this day and I'm still extremely proud of him for. And so, moving after that, it was at end of June, very beginning of July, and we're all sitting at home, nice day outside, and my dad asked us to come sit outside on the outdoor patio furniture, whatever you want to call it, and he just kind of sits us down, and Jay's sitting down with us, and he just says, the treatment's not working. He's been told that he's not going to live through the summer, and it was just something that I was so taken back by, because from my point of view, knowing who he was as a person, I thought there was not a chance that this would ever come to a point like this. So, it just kind of hit me all at once. I didn't know how to react to it. I didn't want to have to react to it. It was just such a shock to me, hearing that he's not going to live and the treatment's not working for him. And for me at that point in, my life, almost 15 at that time, still 14, you want to go out, see your friends and everything, but you also understand that now your brother's not going to live for much longer. And a big part of me didn't believe it. Not the fact that, not that I was in shock or anything. It was just more so because I knew who he was as a person, and I just had this gut instinct in me that he was still going to pull through even after hearing all that. And I just thought that there was not a chance in the world that he wasn't going to be able to still pull it off even after hearing that news. So, moving into the summer, I'd still go out with friends, and I think it was something that my brother and my parents still wanted me to do, still socialize with my friends, not alienate myself. But there was a couple times for sure when I went out when I shouldn't have. And, I remember just getting in a few arguments with my dad, and one in particular, I'd go bike across the city to go hang with my friends. And one time, I'm right about to leave and grab my bike, and he comes out in the garage, opens the door, and just starts, we get in a bit of an argument, and, he just kind of says, your brother's not living much longer. And to me, I thought, there's not a chance that he's not going to make it through. So I just kind of kept going, went out, hung out with my friends for the night. And it wasn't because I didn't want to be supportive or anything like that. To me, I had a feeling, it was almost like I knew for sure that he'd pull through being the person he was. And, it went like that. There's a few nights like that where it happened, but as the summer kind of went on, I started to be around him more. I started to get more comfortable with the whole situation, which was a big help for sure, not only for myself, but for my whole family as a whole, and especially for my brother. And, going through the moments that have hit me the most out of it all it wasn't the visual parts, seeing him struggle. It was more the physical parts for myself, where I've had to help him. I remember one time he wasn't feeling too good in the summer, and we had to take him into the hospital, and at that point he wasn't able to walk up the stairs, so I had to carry him up the stairs. And I think that was one of the toughest moments for me, just thinking, I'm the younger brother here, he's the older brother. I was just thinking, I never thought that I'd be in a position where I'm having to help carry my brother up the stairs because he's not able to, physically. And it's just kind of moments like that have hit me the most, without a doubt. And those are also the moments that kind of also have helped me, push through life, given me motivation. And I think, moving into the summer, especially that baseball season for me, it really gave me a little extra motivation. I think that season was by far, rather that season or the following season, by far my best personal season as a whole. And also for the team, we were also, one of the best teams in the province, up and down between first and second all year. Great team, great coaches. And, my brother was never a big fan of baseball, but, he'd start to come out and watch, and it was really nice to see from my point of view, getting his support, especially in a time like that. And really just something that helped me push through. And going into, very end of July, beginning of August, it was, we were out in, I can't remember if it was Strathmore or just south of Calgary, and it was where provincials were at. And so he comes out for the trip to watch, and, we were going in, expecting to at least make it to the finals. And our team, we just absolutely choked. No one really played good. It was just kind of, unfortunate. It was one of those things that happened. And I remember going into our last game, we was kind of one of those things where you kind of just went on to the meaningless games afterwards if you won, but if you lost, then you were done. And I remember him watching, he was there that weekend, and like I said before, I was terrible that weekend, not like me during that season. And my last at bat, which was going to be my last at bat for the season, I go up to one of my coaches and I just say, "Do you know what? I'm going to hit a homer here." And he was like, "Oh yeah," just kind of joking around about it. And first pitch, I take a strike inside, and I just kind of told myself, if he throws me that again, I'm just going to hit an absolute nuke off of it. And next pitch, exact same spot, and swear to God, it's the farthest ball I've hit. It was, looking back on it now, even further years, I believe it's still the farthest ball I've ever hit in my life. And just kind of ironic in a way that my brother was there to watch. And, that year I hit a few that season, and once you've done it more than once, you almost, all the time you want to act like that you've done it before, especially after hitting more than one. And I remember going around the bases, and he was sitting third base side with my dad, and I come around second, and I just kind of see him there, and he was up cheering for me and everything. And it was, especially in baseball, since he wasn't a big fan of it, it was something that I've never quite seen from him before. And seeing him cheer like that, it almost made me start to tear up, and almost made me, I was trying so hard not to smile, so I just kind of pulled my helmet down a bit, put my head down, and just kept running, because I knew if I looked over, I'd start to tear up and I'd smile. And it was something for me that I just didn't want to show those emotions. And remember around in third, and me and my coach, he was my coach for a few years before that too, and I remember looking up at him, and I was trying not to, when I saw him there too, I was trying not to smile either, and hitting a few homers that year, you and your coach, you just kind of get used to it in a way, and I remember him smiling about it because I think he realized how important that was for me and my brother and my family, and just having a moment like that. And I remember seeing him smile, and I was trying so hard not to smile, just trying so hard to hold it in. And once I got into the dugout, it was all smiles. It was really a moment that I love to look back on, and it's almost in a way that in a metaphor that I like to use for myself nowadays. One song in particular by one of my favorite country artists, Cody Johnson, "The Only Way I Know," or one of the verses in the song, it goes, "I'd rather die than be caught crying, so I just smile and pull my hat down low." And that moment there, it's a similar moment that I agree with in life, whatever words you want to put with it. And for me, seeing my brother go through that, some people, they need, when they're looking back on memories and stuff like this, they need a tub of ice cream and they just need to cry it out for a bit and they're good to go again. But for me, seeing him go through that, from my point of view, I'm not a crier that way. I hate crying. For me, I just see it as a waste of time for me. I know for other people it works differently, but for me, I just rather not cry, or rather just keep pushing through, keep going. And I'd rather not waste, for me, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but in a way I kind of see it as a waste of time crying. I know it does me no good for me personally. I know for others, hey, crying, you just need to let it out sometimes. It works for you, to each their own. But for me, it doesn't help me all that much. I've personally, since we'll get into this a bit later on in the show, but from the last time that I saw him before he got cremated, that was the last time that I've ever cried about him. I never cried about him since that moment. For me, like I said before, crying does me no good. It just kind of slows me down in the process. And for me, it doesn't work. Other people, it might, but for me, it doesn't work. So I just keep pushing through, I smile about those memories. I love thinking about those memories. It just helps me keep pushing through in life. So that was, without a doubt, one of my favorite moments of all time with him, seeing him cheering and smiling about it all. And it was just one of those moments that I love to reflect on. And for those baseball fans out there, if you know Jose Fernandez, the pitcher for the Miami Marlins, who passed away the next game, D. Gordon, he hit a homer, and he says that it's the farthest homer he's ever hit in his life. And for me, I totally agree with that with him. And similar type of moments. He just lost a teammate and everything, and I knew that I was potentially going to lose my brother. At that point, I still believed that he was going to make it through. He was still going to pull it through, but unfortunately he didn't, and that was the last game that he ever watched me play in both hockey and baseball. So it's just kind of one of those really special moments that I love to look back on. So moving into the fall, it was kind of, he made it through the summer. He was told he wasn't going to make it through the summer, but once we kind of got into the fall, this was kind of when the whole King Jay really started to come about. His original wish was to be able to meet LeBron James, his favorite basketball player, but wasn't able to do that. So his wish was to come up with a pair of his favorite custom sneakers all into one. And from there, they just kind of came out with the whole King Jay apparel line. And moving into the fall, like I said before, that was really when things started to slow down. And one story I love to share was the first day of fall, one of the doctors comes in to check on him, and he kind of tells him to check what the date is, and he sees that's the first day of fall. And it was just kind of one of those moments where it was like, flipping the finger, a little respectable FU moment to the doctor, you know, just prove it, you know, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to keep pushing through. You know, that was exactly what he was all about. So that's kind of, I unfortunately wasn't there for that moment. I would have loved to see it. I wish so bad that I would have gotten to see that, you know, just kind of a respectable FU to the doctor saying, you know, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to prove science wrong. And it was kind of, without being there, it's still one of those moments that I love to think about. It helps motivate me through, you know, my day-to-day life. So with that being said, you know, we're just going to make this, you know, a bit of a shorter episode, but with the upcoming one's going to be a little bit more extensive, moving into the tougher times for sure. So I just like to leave you guys with, don't be afraid to try something new in your coping process. Like I said, for me, crying doesn't work for me. I personally don't cry about it. Does me no good. It's not trying to be a tough guy or anything like that. I've just never found that it's worked for me. I know for other people, you know, maybe you just got to look over some pictures, you know, cry a little bit. That works for you. You know, that's great. You want to do what works for you personally, and don't try and be someone you're not, especially in a grieving process. It'll only do you harm. You obviously want to do what's best for you. So, you know, my piece of advice for this episode, I just do, you know, say, don't be afraid to try something different. You know, I know if you look up on Google or whatever, it gives you kind of the same repetitive answers on what you should do when it comes to grieving. And a lot of them are great, without a doubt, but don't be afraid to try something different. What works for you is not going to work for something else potentially. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So, you know, just try and figure out what works for you. You might not find it right away. It might take you a week, a couple months, maybe even a couple of years. But once you figure out what works for you, stick to it. I'd say don't change what works for you. You know, if it's working, keep at it and keep pushing through, keep battling through, you know, those tough memories. Use them as motivation. So that's going to wrap up this episode today, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you tune in for the upcoming episode next week. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode on the King Jay podcast. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast app or watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share with all your friends and family, as our goal is to grow this as big as possible so we're able to reach this podcast to as many people as possible who are potentially looking for some guidance through a tough time in their lives, and be able to help fund future wishes for other kids in need, and just be able to make as big of an impact as possible. Thank you.
Join the kingdom.